Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. This is Michael, KE4EST. And on the bench we have a Ten-Tec 961 power supply. I believe this came out with the Omni 6, maybe it was Omni 5. I know it'll match a couple different ones. But anyway, I have, this came in the other day. A friend of mine wanted me to look at it. It says it is shutting down with high SWR and things like that. Something ain't right. So I don't know. I mean, if it's the radio itself is designed, because this radio or this power supply has a connector that connects into the back of the radio. So maybe it's designed to shut this down when it has SWR instead of turn the power back. I've not looked at a schematic, I don't know, but so I'm just going to look at it and do a check over it and everything. I will get the screws out. I'm not going to show all that. But I did notice one thing. Now he had it apart, I know, because he took it out, show me a couple pictures and stuff. But these screws have got some high mileage on them, and he got it used at a Hamfest. But these screws got some high mileage on them, so somebody's been here before. Even if he was really bad at getting the screws out, I don't think he's that bad. So somebody, they didn't scratch the case up, don't look like. And there's some stuff here, but it's rubbing right off, like a little smudge off your fingers or something. But these screws got some high mileage, so somebody's been in here before for sure. So let me get this thing apart, and I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back here. I'm kind of just holding it up here. That's why it's wobbling around. But like I said, yeah, there's not a whole lot to it here. I told him on the radio, I said, there's probably got an LM723 in it, or a variant of it. And if you can see on the camera there. But yes, it is an MC. What is that? I'm trying to look through the monitor, but it's a 723. And let's see, it looks like a 358. So there's your op amp. So that's probably for your over voltage, over current, one or both. So when I get these and look at these power supplies, I really like going over power supplies and fixing them. Let me find. I like to kind of go through and look at things. Now he was showing me in the picture. Maybe you can see that there. This diode here looks a little burnt. He sent me a picture. You know, I think I mentioned that, but he showed in the picture that. And I mean, and anything like this, you just want to go through and get a visual inspection. It's got 2 pass transistors on the back here. They got covers on them. What I like to do with anything, get a visual inspection, kind of start looking for trouble spots. The capacitors don't look bulged or anything like that. But if you look real close, I don't know if you can see that in the camera. There's some kind of wax on it. That's what you see around there. There's a wax on this one. There's a wax there. They put some kind of wax over it. So it may not be that bad, or it may not be burned at all. It may just be some wax or something they put on it, but I have to look at it closer, and I'll pull this board out. Speaking of, well, that's another thing I do, go around. Sometimes you can just touch stuff and find some odd stuff, look it over, do visual inspection, but yeah, I've got my hand in the way. This here, I can see the leads moving in and out. I can see that, and that's, I'm guessing, I gotta pull a schematic up. I'm guessing this is, on the board it just says Q1. guessing that's driving the pass transistors here because it's got the heat sink on it. And it's big enough. Probably some kind of a PNP transistor. But, you can't see, my hand's in the way, but that's really, I mean, it's going to rock back and forth anyway, because this heat sink is not, some heat sinks are bolted, or they'll have studs on it that go through the circuit board and solder or bolt with nuts on the other side. But this one don't, it's just attached to the back of the heat sink. So you're going to have some rocking, but that, no. That I can actually see the leads moving. So there's got to be a cold solder joint, 1 or 2 on that. And I see something else. Let's see if I can set this up. Okay, if I don't bump the camera, I've got it zoomed in there. This is the board on the back here. This is the, can't see the heat sink. Back behind here is the pass transistors. Look at these solder joints. I'll change the light a little bit. That'll glare. Maybe you can see on both of them, really. I really hope that's not factory, and I doubt it. And I also see like pieces of, I'm going to write all over everything. I find my tuning tool I usually use, but there's a solder ball right there. I just got that out. Good thing I dropped it in there. And when I first was looking at this, there was a solder ball set in here. There was one set in here. And there was one rattling around in here, which is never good. And my guess is, just visual inspection of this, that is not 6040 solder. Or they used a really low heat, barely enough just to melt it a little bit. That's very shoddy work right there. Changing out those pass transistors. So, and then down here too, I don't know if they unsoldered that. Try to put it back instead of just taking it loose here to pull this board out. Not real sure. Yeah, that's not great. So I'm gonna have to pull this board out. Well, I may not have to pull it out, but I definitely want to take all that solder off and re-solder that. Check the transistors and re-solder it. And we can do that real quick. We can just see. Just a quick check with a meter. This I know is not the best in the world. But, you know, just a quick check with a diode checker on the meter. I know this is not definitive, but sometimes you can get real quick at the. Okay. Well, you can't see the meter. Let me back this out. Put this meter. You can see it. There you go. From 1. Okay, that's good. That's good. Go around the camera here. I hope I don't shake it too bad. Well, I tell you, working around a camera and looking at a monitor is not always ideal. Trying to get this in here, so. Okay, can you still see the meter? Okay. That little beep was my digipeater beeping over there about something. Okay, that's good. So, initial check, the pass transistors are passing. But, and they might be fine. He said it's working. It just gets to a certain point and kicks out. Like high amperage draw and stuff. And I don't mean, you know, this thing's supposed to be good probably for 20 amps, I'm guessing. It's got 2 pass transistors, maybe a little more than 20 amps. But it shouldn't be kicking out as early as he described it, so. And there's a little switch over here, 115, 220, that's set for 115, so. Yep, let me get some boards out and do some more checking, and I'll be back. And a few hours later, I am back. Now, what I've done is I went through and I checked everything. And these capacitors are checking out really good. But I mean, look at this thing. It's a Nishikon. That's an IC. I mean, they didn't spare any. They used really good parts. So I'm just going to leave them in there for now. I did go in here and, pardon the camera movement, bring in a little closer, redo the focus. Right here, you can see those. I've resoldered those better. I was even noticing down in here, barely see it, somebody had before hit that with the soldering iron, which is, I mean, it happens. We all do it sometimes, but when you try to do things a little bit better, you try to watch out for that. And then down in here, let me move the camera again. Still zoomed in, that's good. That'll be fine. Change the focus there. There's enough of light on that. I think so. I'm looking through the monitor. All these checked out great. I mean, that's not a burnt spot on that. I resoldered all these. Looks like somebody unsoldered all these wires at one time to pull it out. And it is a bit aggravating, but if you unhook this wire here, this interconnect going from this board to the rear board, and this is going to the LED, it gives you a little more room. This in here is a little short, but I went in and, let me try to hold this down. There's a little flex in that, but it ain't moving now. And I was wrong. Yeah. Bring the camera up here. I don't know what that is. I didn't put that on there. I don't know if it's factory or what. But anyway, I was wrong. These do go all the way through and they're twisted there. You can see how good the board looks. There's some flux places it needs to. It could come off, but you can tell that's factory. I did this one here, this transistor here. I resoldered all that. I resoldered several places in here. And this one, this driver, and it is a driver. I've got a schematic I'll look at in a minute. But all I had to do really was just resolder everything, checked a bunch of components as I was going through. And everything is in spec. Let me get, let's put one screw back into it here, at least to hold it in place. And we're going to do a check on it. Okay. So let me get up here and make sure everything's. Now one thing, well, I've got this over here, you can't really see it. I think I mentioned it's got 4 places on that plug. Let me back out of here. There's 4 places on that plug. There's 4 wires on that plug I showed you earlier. The 2 in the middle carry AC and they go in and loop back out, and what they do, and they come in right here. One of them's down right in there off of that fuse. Your AC line's coming in, going through the fuse. Then it goes, you can see that green wire, it goes into the cable, which would go into the radio. So it goes on the green wire, goes out to the radio, flip the switch on the radio, it just closes the switch, comes back on the red wire, which feeds power to it. I've got it jumpered if you want to work on one of these. A piece of 12, number 12 wire solid, like you have in a house wire or anything like that. Get you a piece of solid number 12, make you a little loop, and just take off just a little bit of insulation on each end just to get down in there, so you don't shock yourself or whatever, because there's going to be voltage on that, lines voltage, but that'll jumper it out so you can do testing on it. So let's see here. I'll do with the plug. It's everything looks right. I'm gonna go ahead and turn on my download over here. You'll hear the fan noise probably. Boy, everything wants to tangle up. Alright. Okay, make sure everything looks good here. Maybe I will move you over. Elevate that a little bit. Let's move you over here too. It's on an angle, but you'll get the picture. Got it on 18 volt setting. 18 amps, 18 volts. So this is just a meter to read whatever's here. The lights flicker a little bit. Okay, so the power supply is on. And let's look at it and see. Well, a little over 13, between 13 and 14 volts on this analog meter. Another thing, let me show you real quick. If you're working on one of these, or if it works fine, you just kind of want to touch it up a little bit, or you want it to be exactly 13.8 volts, or you want to be a little lower than 13.8 volts. Some people would prefer to go down a little lower. Right here, this potentiometer here is the adjustment for that, and there's nothing to go in the side of the case, I'm pretty sure. I don't think there is. It'd be nice if maybe there is two holes in the side of the it's on the other side of the room, but anyway, there's what this one here would be your voltage, just it to get it close to 13.8 volts, or where you want it. And this is your current trip. This, you can adjust it to where you want it to trip at, and from the factory it's set to trip out at 22 amps. If you go over 22 amps, it'll trip, but you can adjust that right there for that. But anyway, there's no lights on this, but on these meters here, I'm on the 18 amp setting. On the 15, this will only do 15 amps maximum, but we will start getting a little load here, and you can see now I didn't check it before. I wish I had in a way, but that definitely happened, and it was a definite cold solder joint. I mean, it was one leg, you could see it moving in there on the back side. I was like, oh gosh. So somebody had been in there, and it looks like they changed out that driver transistor for whatever reason. And it was that same solder that definitely went 60-40 solder. I don't know what it was they was using. Or it could have been just a real, because I heated up some of it and it looked okay after I heated it up, but maybe they had a real low solder, heat soldering iron, I don't know. Right now, bringing it on up here. And this needle sticks, as you can see. I need to work on it. I did a video on this a couple years ago, but the needle sticks here. Sometimes I get to go up there, but right now we should be pulling about 15 amps out of this thing. And like I said, I checked the transistors. They checked out okay, and yeah, they're getting warm. Getting warm at the same rate. I'm just using my finger to feel the back of the transistor. Remember, once again, this is all open. There's live voltage in here from the line voltage. Be very, very careful doing this. You're doing so at your own risk. But you got to be careful not to stick your hand off in there. But I'm just feeling the temperature of my finger. And those transistors are coming up. They feel the same temperature to my finger, like one ain't hotter than the other and the one's cold. So it's pulling it out. Heat sink's starting to get good and warm now. Not crazy, but it's getting warm. Alright, turn that off. Sometimes that's all there is to fixing something, is going in and fixing somebody else's shoddy work, or going in and, I mean, it may come from the factory, but it's 30 or 40 years old, And sometimes over time, depending on the environment that it's been in or whatever, the solder can, maybe didn't use that great of solder. It could be a low-end product. This here's pretty, it's Ten-Tec. They used all really good, high-quality stuff in here. But it could have been I'm saying another device you're working on. Sometimes, it's still a thing, it's okay. It may not be top of the line, but they maybe didn't do that great of a job. And sometimes at the factory, they just kind of ran through real quick, and they had somebody hand solder and everything. Didn't get wave soldered or whatever thing. And you'll find these where there was just not enough solder on the joint. And it might have worked with environmental changes and heating and with the product being used depending on what it is. It finally develops a cold solder joint, and you can go back and hit the solder joints and reheat them, and sometimes they'll bring everything right back to life. All you gotta do, you ain't gotta change any parts. So I was going into this thinking at least I was gonna have to change out this driver and maybe the pass transistors and possibly a 723, but the way he talked and did some checks for me, I didn't think so. But anyway, I hope this helps somebody, because the reason I put this up here is because I was looking, there was nobody on. I didn't really see any videos, because that's the first thing you do, right? You get something like this, you want to see if somebody else already get a video on it, or a forum post or something where they run into a problem. Because a lot of times in a unit that comes out and people make hundreds and thousands of the units come out, there's a lot of times a common problem, and you can go in and read or watch a video and go, aha, okay. It's going to be the same problem you have, but you can go in and look and find it and go, yep, I got the same exact thing, change that, and bam, it's back to working. I didn't see anything really, so I got to keep remembering this is still on. But that's the inside of it. They did a really good job here. I don't think there's even much else to say about it, and I don't want to just keep on and bore you to death. But anyway, so hopefully I'll get back into making a few more videos, a little more often than once every few months. But until the next one, this is Michael, KE4EST 73.